The curse of the bloody mirror. It's exactly 3 a.m. A time when most people are fast asleep, but in some parts of the world, it's called the devil's hour. A time when the veil between the real and the unseen worlds is thinnest. And at that time, if someone stands in front of an old mirror and says a name that has been a symbol of fear for years, then does something really happen? Or is it all just a human imagination? Today's story will seek the answer to that very question. But be careful. After listening to this story, you may never want to stand alone in front of a mirror in the dark of night again. A small town surrounded by mountains in the state of Oregon, USA, Blackwood. The town is so quiet that during the day it seems that no evil exists here. But after the sun sets, the people of this town never look at the old Harrington Manor. Everyone in town knows. There's a huge old mirror on the 3rd floor of that house. If you stand in front of that mirror and say a certain name 3 times in the middle of the night, then nothing will ever be the same again. Some say it's just a folktale. Some say, there's a prisoner in that mirror who's been waiting for 100 years. For someone's mistake. It's an autumn afternoon. 5 friends come to Blackwood for their college break. Their names are Ethan, Mia, Lucas, Sophie, and Noah. They're all popular YouTube creators. It's their job to spend the night in spooky places and make videos. This time they decided they'll spend the night at Harrington Manor because thousands of people on the internet have claimed something strange can be seen in the mirror of that house. Ethan said with a laugh, "There's no such thing as a ghost. Tonight, it'll all be proven to be fake." But the old motel owner didn't smile for a moment after hearing them. Instead, he said slowly, "You can go home. You can also make a video. But don't say any names in front of the mirror." Mia asked in surprise. "Why?" The old man was silent for a while. Then he said in a trembling voice, "Because saying some names means waking someone up." Suddenly, silence fell in the room. Lucas laughed. "You attract tourists by telling these stories, don't you?" The old man didn't answer. He just left an old rusty key on the table and said, "If you can leave before the sun rises, then never come back." It was 10 p.m. The 5 friends arrived in front of the house. The house looked like no one had been here for years. The windows were broken. Black stains on the walls. Dry trees all around. A kind of rotten smell in the air. The camera turned on. Ethan said, "Guys, today we're spending the night in the most haunted house in America. Let's see. Is there really something here?" As soon as the door was pushed, clack, it opened with a crackling sound. As soon as we entered, everyone felt a cold breeze, as if the temperature inside the house was much lower than outside. Sophie whispered, "Do you think someone is watching us?" Noah immediately laughed and said, "The camera is running. If you're scared, the views will increase." But Mia didn't say anything, because she felt, at the top of the stairs on the 2nd floor, someone was standing, like a black shadow. She zoomed in on the camera. But the next moment, there was nothing there. 11:48 p.m. They went up to the 3rd floor. The door was half open. As soon as they entered, in the middle of the room stood the mirror, about 8 feet high, wood carvings all around. But the strange thing was, even though the whole room was filled with dust, the glass of the mirror was perfectly clean, as if someone had wiped it off a few seconds ago. Ethan stood in front of the mirror. He smiled and said, "So this is the legend. Let me see." Just then, the door of the room began to slowly close on its own. Bang! Everyone was shocked. Lucas ran and tried to open the door. but it was as if someone was holding the door tightly from the outside. It didn't move at all. At that very moment, from a corner of the room came a very soft sound of feminine laughter. Hey, hey, hey. And in the glass of the mirror, behind the reflections of the 5 friends, slowly began to appear another, unknown, bloody face. The Curse of the Bloody Mirror. Part 2. The bloody face was blurry at first. Slowly, the fog began to clear. A woman's face. Long black hair covered her entire face. Blood was dripping from both eyes. An unusual smile on her lips. But the scariest thing was, she was standing right behind the 5 friends. The camera screen was clearly visible. But when they turned around and looked, no one was in the house. How is this possible? Noah's throat was shaking. Ethan quickly picked up the camera and looked at the mirror again. This time, the face was gone. Everything was normal. He laughed out loud and said, "Say, maybe it's a play of light and shadow." But his smile didn't last long. Because just then, the camera's battery, all 3 cameras at once, went from 100% to 0 in a second. The room was plunged into darkness. Only through the gap in the window was the moonlight shining on the mirror. Mia said in a trembling voice, "We should get out now." Lucas pulled the door again. "No, it's not opening yet." Suddenly, somewhere upstairs, the sound of someone walking slowly. Knock, knock, knock. Everyone raised their heads together. Ethan whispered, "There's no other floor in this house." The sound was getting closer and closer. It felt like someone was walking on the roof. Then, suddenly all the noise stopped. The whole house was silent. Such silence, where you could even hear your own heartbeat. Sophie turned on the flashlight on her mobile phone. As soon as the light fell on the mirror, everyone froze together. The reflection of the 5 people was not in the mirror. It appears 4 people. Ethan's reflection disappeared, but in reality, he was standing right in front of them. Ethan put his hand to his mouth. There was nothing in the mirror. It seemed the mirror didn't recognize him. He said in panic, What is this?" Suddenly, a hand came out of the mirror. Black, long, unusually thin fingers. In an instant, it grabbed Ethan's throat. Ethan couldn't breathe. He was writhing. His friends were pulling him, but it was as if they were fighting some invisible force. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Suddenly, the hand disappeared. Ethan fell to the floor, gasping. 5 long nail marks were on his neck. Blood was slowly coming out of it. No one could speak anymore. Noah said in a trembling voice, "We are cursed." Just then, a woman's voice echoed throughout the house. Very slowly, in a very cold voice. "You called me." Looking around, she couldn't see anyone. The voice seemed to be coming from inside the wall. Then, written on the mirror glass by itself, "One of me." Below it, slowly another voice floated. "It will." Mia shouted, "Come on, let's break out the window." They ran to the window. But beyond the window, there was no forest outside. Instead, endless darkness. It seemed there was no world outside the window. Sophie started to cry in fear. Just then, an old rocking chair in the corner of the room started to rock on its own. Crap, crap, crap. As the chair stopped, I saw sitting there a little girl. White dress, face not visible. She said very softly, "Oh, he's here." The next moment, the girl disappeared, but in her place was an old diary lying on the floor. Lucas quickly picked it up. The first page of the diary read, "If you read this, then he's already seen you. Curse of the Bloody Mirror." Part 3. Lucas's hands were shaking. The diary, wrapped in an old leather cover, looked as if no one had touched it for years. He slowly opened the first page. The pages had turned yellow. The occasional dried red stain. Like very old blood. On the first page, written in large letters, "Whoever stands in front of this mirror will never be alone again." The cold wind began to blow through the room again. Mia whispered, "Read, maybe there's a way out written here." Lucas glanced at the next page. There it was written, "Year 1894. My name is Eliza Hart. Everyone in this house is dead. But none of them left the house. Everyone listened silently." Lucas continued reading. Eliza wrote, "The Harrington family was the richest family in town. Their only daughter, Mary. Mary was very beautiful, but she could never see her own face, because she had believed since childhood there was another world inside the mirror. There lived another Mary. At first, everyone thought it was a childish fantasy. But little by little, Mary began to change. She would stand in front of the mirror for hours. She would talk to herself. Sometimes she would laugh. Sometimes she would cry. One day, her mother went to the mirror and saw Mary was not in the room, but she was standing in the mirror, and in the real room, just a shadow. Then, that night the whole family died mysteriously. Only the mirror was intact. The last line of the diary read, "She is not Mary. She is something inside the mirror." Suddenly, the whole house shook. It seemed as if the whole house was breathing. Black smoke began to come out of the cracks in the wall. One by one, all the windows closed on their own. Then, the woman's face appeared again in the mirror. This time, much clearer than before. Her eyes were completely black. Her lips were cracked and bleeding. But she was smiling. Very slowly. She raised her hand. And at the same time, Ethan's body started walking towards the mirror on its own. "Ethan!" Mia shouted. But Ethan didn't seem to hear anything. His eyes were blank. His face was expressionless. He slowly stood in front of the mirror. And, unconsciously, he began to say, "Mary. Once. Mary. Twice." Sophie ran to catch her. Just then, numerous black hands came out from under the floor and grabbed Sophie's legs. She started to scream. Lucas tried to pull away, but his hands were cold as ice, and incredibly strong. Ethan's lips moved again. "Mary." For the third time. As soon as the word was uttered, the glass of the mirror cracked into 1,000 pieces. But it didn't break. Instead, a strange red light came out of the cracks. The whole room turned red. Then, slowly, from inside the mirror, a woman emerged. Her feet didn't even touch the ground. Long black hair fell to the floor. There was something human about her face. Not again. When she heard her laugh, it felt like 100 people were laughing at the same time. She stopped in front of Ethan. She slowly reached out and touched Ethan's face. In an instant, Ethan's scream shook the entire house. Her body slowly became transparent like glass. It felt like he was being pulled into the mirror. Mia desperately grabbed his hand. But the hand was as cold as ice. A second later, Ethan disappeared, just inside the mirror. He was standing on the other side of the glass. He was hitting with both hands. He was screaming. But no sound was coming out. To be continued, the truth is revealed in the final episode, the attempt to return alive and the shocking ending. The next part will feature the final confrontation, the conclusion of the mystery of the mirror, and a final twist that will change the meaning of the entire story. The Curse of the Bloody Mirror, the final chapter, Part 1. Ethan is trapped on the other side of the mirror. He is desperately hitting the glass. Panic in his eyes. Screams are coming out of his mouth. But not a single word is reaching outside. Mia put her hand on the mirror while crying. At that moment, Ethan also put his hand on the mirror from inside the glass. There was only a thin glass between the two hands. But that was the border between the two worlds. Suddenly, Ethan's expression changed. He seemed to see something behind Mia. His eyes widened. He began to wave his hand desperately. "Don't look back," as if that was what he wanted to say. Mia slowly turned around. In the middle of the room, that woman. Her head is tilted to one side, unusually. A bloodshot smile on her face. Her eyes are completely black. She doesn't make a sound. Just stares. Then, a word. Very slowly. And 4. Suddenly, all the candles in the room lit up on their own. Red fire. Not a normal fire. The old pictures hanging on the walls fell down one by one and broke. The same woman in each picture. The same face. The same smile. But each picture was dated differently. 1894. 1921. 1958. 1989. 2014. Mia realized. Every few decades, someone comes to this house. And no one goes back. Lucas opened the diary again. On one of the last pages it was written, "If she is released, she will have to be imprisoned in the mirror again. But for that, someone will have to enter the mirror voluntarily." Silence fell in the room. Everyone's eyes were on each other. This meant someone had to sacrifice their life. Just then, Ethan, trapped inside the mirror, began to bang on the glass. His face wasn't panic. This time, it was a plea. He seemed to be saying, "No, no one come." But at that moment, many more faces began to appear from inside the mirror. Not just Ethan. An old man. A little girl. A policeman. A photographer. Countless more people. With the same helpless plea in their eyes. They all seemed to have been trapped inside that mirror for years. Mia whispered, "It's not just a ghost. It's a prison." Suddenly, the entire mirror shook with a loud noise. Bang! The first crack. Then the second. Then the third. The woman slowly began to laugh. Because, if the mirror breaks, she will never be a prisoner again. The Curse of the Bloody Mirror. The final episode. The cracks in the mirror gradually grew larger. Red light came out of each crack, turning the entire room red as blood. The woman slowly raised her head. Her lips moved. "Free me." Her voice was like the whispering of 100 people at once. Suddenly, a stormy wind began to blow around the room. The old furniture began to collapse one by one. The last page of the diary opened by itself. It was written in large letters. "The mirror will never break. If it breaks, it will be free. The only way to imprison it, light the light of truth in front of the mirror and conquer your fear." Lucas shouted, "Don't look at her, don't look at the mirror." But by then, Sophie had already looked at the mirror. Her eyes were fixed. She began to walk slowly. 1 foot. 2 feet. 3 feet. Mia ran and caught him. At that moment, the woman screamed terribly. Black smoke began to come out of her body. The sound of thousands of breaking glass echoed in the room. Noah saw a small sentence under the last line of the diary. She gets her strength from people's fear. If no one is afraid, she becomes weak. Noah took a deep breath. She went to stand in front of the mirror. She was shaking, but she didn't back down. She said loudly, "You can't do anything to us." The woman laughed wildly. Then in an instant, she was standing in front of Noah. She extended her ice-cold hand to Noah's face. But Noah didn't close his eyes. She stared at him steadily. Slowly, the woman's face began to distort. Her screams became more intense. All the people trapped inside the mirror started hitting the glass together. The room shook. Lucas and Mia held the diary up in front of the mirror. A bright white light seemed to come out of the diary's pages. As soon as that light fell directly on the mirror, the woman was knocked back. She started screaming in great anger. "No, not again." Suddenly, Ethan shouted from inside the mirror and raised his hand. This was the first time his voice was heard outside. "Now." Lucas threw the diary at the mirror with all his strength. As soon as the diary touched the mirror, the whole room was filled with white light. A loud explosion. Then, everything was silent. A few seconds later, Mia slowly opened her eyes. The room was the same as before. No red light. No black smoke. The old mirror is now completely black, as if there is nothing inside it. Ethan is back. He is lying unconscious on the floor. After a while, he regains consciousness. The four of them hug each other. The first rays of sunlight are starting to enter the room through the window. They quickly leave the house, without even looking back. 6 months later, the video of their night together goes viral around the world. But strangely, the part of the video where the mirror was is completely black. No one could see anything. People believed it was all an act. The four friends decided never to tell anyone about this incident again. Life gradually returned to normal. But one night, Mia was brushing her teeth in her new apartment, standing in front of the bathroom mirror. She lowered her head, washed her face, and looked at the mirror again. At first, only her own reflection. Then, slowly, another shadow appeared behind him. Long black hair, blood-stained lips, the same terrible smile. Mia turned around in fear. No one was in the room. She looked at the mirror again. This time, in red letters, it slowly emerged. "I was never a prisoner. I was just waiting for a new visitor." Suddenly, the bathroom light went out. Complete darkness. And in that darkness, very slowly, a feminine smile came. Hey, hey, hey. Then, silence. The end.